Shakira's here. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Travel the world, no fear, no fear. Dancing all night so clear, so clear.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I am Shakira Says. If it's your first time here, welcome back to my channel. And if you're returning here, hey y'all. So today I'm about to get into another story time. So as you can tell by the title, this story time is going to be about how I stole my mother's car. Okay, so I'm gonna have to take it back for y'all. Okay, I'm gonna jump right into this story time. So let's set the scene, y'all. I'm 19 years old. Back home. I just got back home from my college campus because it's summer break, so I'm back at home for the summer. As y'all know, summertime is full of good times. Hanging out late with your friends on the porch, going to parties, cookouts, you going to the club, you just all over the place. You hearing loud music in people's cars, people's homes. It's just wild times. The summer is just an overall good time. So one day, my homegirl, the same friend that was in the shootout with me in the previous video that I just made. So if you haven't seen that video that I survived a shootout, go and watch that video and then come back here to this video. So my same homegirl, so she hit me up like earlier in the week. So it had to be like maybe a Monday or a Tuesday, something like that. She hit me up. So wait, first I'm gonna give this friend a name. So we're gonna name this friend Claudette. So Claudette, the same girl from the shootout video. So Claudette hits me up. Hey girl, what's up? It's gonna be mad hot this weekend, so I'm about to light the grill. And I'm like, lit. I am there. You know me, I'm the party girl. So I'm like, hell yeah, I'm going to your cookout. And Claudette, she was a vibe. Like she first of all, Claudette, she can cook her tail off. For a young person, Claudette can cook down like she was somebody's grandmother, or you know, she just, this girl could have opened a restaurant. So Claudette, she was a vibe. She knew mad people, she could cook, and whenever she had like a cookout or some type of get together, it was always a vibe, and she knew mad people. So I'm like, hell yeah, I'm going. So she was like, yeah, girl, this is the time. You can invite whoever you want. So I'm like, cool. You know, I'm there. So the weekend comes. Most likely it was like a Saturday. So I get dressed. I make sure I'm looking good because, you know, when it's hot outside, the ninjas be outside. When it's hot outside. So I get ready and I meet up with two girls. They were our mutual friends of me and Claudette. So we live closer to each other. So we was like, okay, let's roll to Claudette's cookout together. So we go to Claudette's cookout. We get there, and like as we're walking closer, the aroma of the grill going, it's just smelling so good, y'all. Mad good. And I'm just like, I know I'm about to eat good because Claudette could throw down. So as we're like getting closer, there's like a few people that have already arrived. And there were some guys, there were a couple of like girls there that were mutual friends that I already knew. So as we getting closer, we start seeing everybody. We start greeting people that we know. Of course, when you enter, you know, a party and you see people, you know, you're like, hey, what's up? Give y'all greetings, give a hug and whatnot. How you been and all that. So I'm looking around and I noticed somebody that I know. I'm like, a guy. I'm like, man, this dude look mad familiar. I'm like, Mark? I'm like, Mark, that's you? Like, what you doing here? And how you know my girl Claudette? Now, Mark is one of my best guy friends' cousin. And I didn't know that he knew Claudette at the time. I'm like, because I never introduced them. So I was surprised that they knew each other. So she was like, so Claudette's like, how you know Mark? So I'm like, yeah, Mark she knew like my best guy friend. She knew him, but she was like, oh, that's, so-and-so's cousin. And so they we were putting the connections there. So I was like, oh, that's cool, y'all. So they explain how they've been talking or dating or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I'm mad amped because I'm like, two people that I know are dating, and they didn't meet through me. Somehow the universe just put them together and now they're dating. I was a mad amp. I'm like, go ahead, Claudette and Mark. So Mark, he was like, well, let me introduce you to my two homeboys that I brought with me. So I'm gonna give them the names Era and his other friend. I'm gonna name him Juan. So Era and Juan were Mark's friends that he brought along with him to the cookout. So immediately I was attracted to Era. And now I'm naming him Era because he was an era in my life. And I'm gonna give y'all more story times later on why he was an era. And just to note, I also called him an era because like he was like a summertime fling, and it was just an era in my life. And the letter of his first name began with an E, but of course we're not going to give his real name. So we're going to call him Era. So Era and Mark was like, hey, not Mark, Era and Juan was like, oh, hey, nice to meet you. And they also meet the other two homegirls that I came to the cookout with. So, throughout the cookout, I'm telling my girls like, oh my God, Era's so cute. He's handsome. I remember what he wore that day. He was so handsome. He had on like, what do they call it? Those fitted hats. I think they call it that, a fitted hat back in the day. And he had like this black fitted shirt on. Those shirts that guys wear to show off their physique, especially like when they work out. So he had like a nice muscular build, and so he had on that fitted shirt. I could tell he works out. And he had on these jeans, like the fit was nice. He had like that low clean cut that I like. I love a low clean cut, so he had that. And he was just looking good. Like he was very handsome in the face, like just total package. So I'm telling my friends throughout the cookout, I'm like, oh my gosh, Era's so handsome. My friends are like, girl, go and talk to him. I'm like, no, I'm gonna wait till he comes approach me, because I can tell that he was feeling me too. I could tell, we're giving each other the googly eyes, like it's what's up. I just need him to make the first move. So as time goes on, we eventually strike up a conversation. I forget exactly how we ended up striking up a conversation, but we do. We ended up talking, about ourselves, where we from, like, where we live, the whole usual conversation when you meet someone. So we eventually end up exchanging numbers. Cool, right? So I'm all happy, I'm giddy, I'm like, yes, Era actually asked me for my number, it's up from here. And then, okay, I'm trying to think of what happened next. Okay, so the party continues, we're having a good time, we ate good, the drinks are flowing, everybody's having a good time. So eventually it gets later and later, and the cookout starts to die down and people start to go home. So Era and Mark and Juan, they go home, and then it's me and the two girls that I came with, we go home. So I go home so content, like I had such a good time with my friends. And the cookout was a total vibe. There was no problems. The weather was nice and the food was good. It was just a vibe, y'all. I had a good time. So a week goes by and I don't hear from Era. I'm like, dang, you don't really like me like that. He didn't call me. I'm like, dang. So like a little past a week, he eventually calls me, and I'm also happy. I'm like, oh my God, it's Era. Now ladies, the today me at this grown age, no, I would not take a man's call after him getting my number and not calling me after 1 week. No. If a man doesn't contact me within 48 to 72 hours after I've given him my number, it's a no from there. Like, no, you don't really like me that bad and you don't really find interest in me. So that's how I feel about it. So, but this is the young me I'm talking about. So so we start talking, you know, he's telling me about his job, where he works at, and I tell him where I'm working at. Of course, I'm working somewhere. I'm working at a clothing store. I think I was working at Marshall's at the time. And, you know, he was working at his job. I think he was working at a local clinic or a hospital or something nearby. So he's telling me that. So I'm not gonna say fast forward. So he was like, oh yeah, you should come over. Not on nothing, you know, not on nothing weird or creepy. I could tell from the conversation and vibe, like it was not on no messy stuff. Like he just really, you know, wanted me to come through and not to go in his house or anything. So at that time, it was like early in the daytime on a weekday. So I was able to get myself there because my mom worked Monday through Friday, and when she would and she worked downtown at the time, so when she would go to work, I would have to drop her off to the train station and then go home, and then like when she came from work, I would pick her up. That's how, you know, it worked. So during that time, she was at work, and after I dropped her off, I was free to use her vehicle to go run whatever errands I needed to do, or, you know, just do whatever little things that I needed to do with the car, because I didn't have a car myself at the time. So I was like, cool, this is perfect. You know, my mom, she wasn't off work for another couple hours. So I was like, cool, I'm gonna come through. So I come through to his house. I pull up, and then he's like, hey girl, what's up? Of course. And I'm like, hey, you know, what's up, Era? And he was like, girl, if you don't get out this car. So he was like, come on. And then he like spins me around. I'm like, you know, so corny. So, you know, we were just chilling outside, and he was like, and then his brother was outside, and Juan, he was like, you remember Juan? And I was like, yeah, hey Juan. And then he introduced me to his brother. So I'm like, hey brother. So it was cool. So we, you know, we just stood outside in front of his house, and, you know, we were talking, because, you know, it's summertime. People just outside chilling on their porch and, you know, just standing outside. So, you know, we had a long conversation. And then as it was nearing time for me to go pick my mother up from the train station, I was like, you know, Era, I gotta go. Which he knew, like, I was using my mom's car. I was like, I gotta go run and get my mom, because I don't want to, you know, get her late and she'd be complaining. So that was that. And from there, like, Era and I were consistent in talking, like, every day. He would be texting me, calling me, and, you know, your girl was just loving it, because, you know, Era was fine. He was so fine. So we ended up seeing each other. He would visit me, I would visit him, and stuff like that. And a lot of times that we would hang out, it would be like in group settings, like with my girls, his boys type of thing. Like it was fun. It's summertime. When you're young, it's always like that. Like, you know, when there's a guy that you're dating or you like, something like that, like, you know, your friends and his friends, like, kind of start to intertwine. It even became to a point where one of his friends started dating one of my friends, and I was like, cool, you know, that's good. So, yeah. So, yeah. Throughout the summer, we had some good times, and there was like, it started to become time, so like he would work late, and then my schedule was a little crazy. Sometimes I would I would work late at the place that I was working at Marshall's. So we tried to like see each other still, like even though it was later in the evening. I'm like, I want to see my man, but it was kind of hard because where we didn't live far from each other. So I would say maybe we lived about like we didn't live far from each other, but like it was like a long, like if I would have walked there, it would be a bit of a walk, but driving there, it was like maybe a 3 to 5 minute drive. However, if I would have got the bus or walk, it would have been a bit of a hassle. I don't know if that makes sense, but you get what I mean? Like he lived close, but it wasn't that close. Like, so if I would have walked there at night, like it would not have been pretty safe, you know? And I wouldn't want him walking alone to me, you know, because that's not really safe. So he didn't have access to a car like I did. So, you know, sometimes my mom would give me a ride, or my cousin, or, you know, one of my friends would give me a ride to his house. But there were times, you know, those people were busy. My cousin was busy, my friends were busy. So, you know, Shakir, you're on your own. Like, we gotta be dropping. They're like, we're not gonna be dropping you off to your mom's house. Not my mom's house, to your man's house. So, you know, one day I asked my mom. It was like later in the evening. I'm like, I'm off work, and he's just getting off work, and it was kind of later in the evening, maybe like it was almost 9 o'clock. I can't exactly remember, but it was much later. And I'm like, you know, can I use the car? And of course she's like, no, you know, I gotta go to work, da 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 da. So I'm like, dang, I want to see my boo, because ain't no other girl gonna see him. You know what I mean, ladies? So I was like, I'm thinking. And y'all know how I get when I think. I come up with ideas. So it was like, I got an idea. I'm gonna take my mother's car when she's sleeping, and she'll never know. I'll just park her car back where, you know, I originally parked, and that is that. Like, I'll go to Era's house and wake up really early, come back, act like nothing ever happened, and then, you know, take her to work. So my mom at the time, like, sometimes she would leave her car keys like in the common areas in the house, like the living room or the kitchen, or even sometimes in her room. So like, even if I were to get her keys in front of her, like, she would be kind of out of it sleeping, and I'll be like, oh, I'm going in the car, I forgot, I don't know, my sweater or my bag in the car or something. So she wouldn't think that I was gonna take off with her car, because I've never done that before. So luckily, when I first thought of the idea and I was like, I'm gonna put this plan into action, like, her car key was like in the kitchen. Actually, it was like in our dining room area. In our dining room area at the time, we had like our computer station, where we had a computer where everybody in our family would use the computer. So at the time, I was like, word, she left her keys right there on the computer table, and I got the keys and I left. So if she had me leaving out the door, I was of age. I was 19 years old, going on 20 maybe. So it's like, okay, you know, Shakira went out to go be with her friends. She's not thinking that I, you know, took the car. So I was like, okay, oh, that I heard something. So I took the car. So I'm like, yo, Era, I'm on the way to your crib. So I pulled up and I'm like, yeah. So he's like, oh, hey, you know, we happy to see each other, you know? And so I set my alarm when I get to his house for like 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning. So I wanted to make sure that I was up and bring the car back and be up in the house before my mother wakes up for work. And I'll pretend that I just woke up and I'm getting ready to take her to the train when she, goes to work. So I set my alarm and I'm happy because I'm not getting no phone calls. My mother didn't happen to wake up in the night, because if she did, she would have been calling, texting me like, where are you with my car? So I wake up and my alarm goes off. I wake up and of course I leave. Me and Eric, we're like, bye, see you later. He kisses me goodbye. And then after that, so of course I go home, park the car, I run upstairs, and my mom's still asleep. I'm like, yes, I got away with stealing my mother's car. So that was the first time I've ever stole my mother's car, and thank goodness nothing happened. I got away with it. So I was like, I'm gonna do this again. I can't get away with this. So she didn't even notice. So I put her keys back right where they were in the first place. So like an hour or two later, she wakes up, she gets ready for work. I get ready to bring her to the train station, and I then have a car for the day freely. And then so then after that, what happened? I'm trying to think, guys. Okay, so I ended up doing that. I don't do it every day. I don't take her car every night, but at least once or twice a night I start taking her car, and she doesn't notice. So a couple or maybe a few weeks go by, I'm doing this, I'm stealing her car, I'm going to Era's house at nighttime, and I'm making sure that I wake up very early in the morning, like 5, 6 a.m., set my alarm and go in the house, act like nothing happened. So one day, it's like routine. I go to Era's house at night, and I set my alarm and then go back home, park the car, go upstairs, and soon as I open the door, the hallway light is on. And now the hallway light is never on when I get back home, and her room light. So I'm like, oh, I can't even turn around right now, because she knows I just opened the door, and she completely knows that I took her car without permission. So I'm like, I cannot escape this. I gotta face it. I gotta face it. Just like I lost my sister's shoes in the shootout. So I'm like, geesh. I'm like, Mom. And she's like, where were you? And she goes, and then she steps in the hallway, y'all. And I'm just kidding. She didn't do that. She wouldn't do that. So then I'm like, I try to make up something on top of my head. I was like, it was an emergency. Claudette really needed me, and I had to go run to her house really quick. It was really an emergency. And I know my mother was like, that's BS. That's not true. So I'm like, it's true. I was at Claudette's house, and I'm just making up, these bogus lies about why I had to go to Claudette's house. And then she's like, yeah, right, whatever. So of course she's going in, she's yelling and stuff like that. She goes in on me, but she didn't go on me as hard as I thought that she would. So I'm like, dang, I ain't doing this again. I don't like that feeling. So from then on, she kept her keys to her at nighttime. She's like, you ain't stealing my car again. And yeah, she made it like in a way where I can only have access to her car during the times where she was at work, or if she was okay with me using her car outside of her work hours, I would use her car. But after that, at nighttime, she's like, I'm sleeping with my car keys. So y'all, I didn't do that again. My mom, she was so mad. I thought she would kick me out and everything, but of course she didn't. So y'all, that goes to show you, don't do it. Don't steal your parents' car. They always find out. And you know, anything could have happened to my mother's car while I had her car without permission. Like somebody could have crashed her car, somebody could have stole the car, like anything. Like I went somewhere like a few weeks ago, and a guy, he was just out of it. He was like telling me how his son stole his car and crashed it. I'm like, dang. I was like, and I'm telling him about my story. I'm like, you know, kids do dumb things all the time. Like, you know, I was trying to make him feel better. Like, you know, kids do these things, and you know, it's gonna be all right. And he was like, yeah, I know it's gonna be all right, but I can't believe he stole the car. And you know, and he wasn't covered in my insurance, and now I have to pay all this money because the insurance won't cover it. So, you know, I just thought about the time I stole my mother's car. I'm like, you know, something tragic like that could have happened where I wasn't insured under my mother's car, and you know, I could have been in an accident. Anything could have happened, and I wasn't insured under my mother's vehicle. So anything could have happened. So you young folks out there, don't steal your mother's car. Don't lie, just be honest, okay? But good thing these days they have Uber. They didn't have Uber at that time, because I would have Ubered to Era's house had they had Uber or Lyft. But back then they didn't have Uber or Lyft services back then. But I learned my lesson to not do that, and to do all that for Era when Era was a boy. So we're gonna get into that and later story times that I'm gonna do. We're gonna talk about how crazy Era was. So thank you guys for listening to this story time about how I stole my mother's car. Definitely give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe if you're not subscribed, and I'll see you in the next video.
Life's so dear.